Welcome back to more Star Fox 64. Last time, we defeated Andross once more, so this time, we're going to go over some miscellaneous topics, starting with Training Mode. Training Mode is completely optional in this version of the game. It's actually really cool because, while the main game does a great job of explaining everything, it might be a little bit tougher to pick up the controls and gameplay when you're trying to actually play the game. So this is a great way to practice things in a low-stress environment where you don't have to worry about objectives or like saving your teammates constantly. We have a series of rings to fly through, and if we can keep flying through these rings, we'll get a higher combo, indicated in the top right. If you miss a ring, the combo will reset to 0, and you have to start over. We also have a few enemies to fight, and if you manage to get 100 points, something special will happen, which we'll see a little bit later on. In the meantime, this mode is actually a bit different in the 3DS version. For one thing, our tutorial character here, a Tanuki named Yarudepon, according to the Japanese website for Star Fox 64, is actually fully voiced in the 3DS version, but not in the original. Another difference is this tutorial is required on your first playthrough in the 3DS version, and I think that was a really good call because there are a lot more control options to pick from in that version, like inverted flight, different button layouts, and gyro aiming. So it's really good to start out with a practice area where you can actually experiment with everything and see what works best for you instead of jumping straight into the main game. Finally, there's an additional practice mode called Trail Run, which is basically like an obstacle course to fly through to test your skills after you get through the training mode. So there are a few things that really aren't brought up in the training mode or elsewhere in the game, such as how you can use charge shots without locking onto enemies. If you hold Z and R while charging up, you can actually fire a charge shot straight ahead without locking onto anything. This is a great option if you're trying to fire a charge shot at a specific enemy and a bunch of other enemies are flying in the way and you're accidentally locking on. So yeah, that's a cool hidden option. One other hidden option is accessible through the pause menu. If you press R on the pause menu, you can actually disable the aiming reticle. This makes the game a little bit more immersive, but also a little bit more challenging because you can't see where exactly you're firing, so this takes a bit of practice, but it is cool that this is an option, even though I tend to prefer to play with the aiming reticle, so I am going to turn that back on. One thing that the tutorial does mention later on is camera options. I can't remember if I talked about this in a failed recording or the actual playthrough, but just in case, there are several different camera options, such as pressing C up in on-rails mode to swap to first person. I do not recommend playing the game like this, because it's very disorienting, especially when you try to barrel roll. It's not great. Thankfully, when somersaulting, the game will force you out of first person, so it's not as bad. But still, I really don't like playing like this as someone with mild vertigo. First person mode is not available in all range mode. So instead, C up will simply zoom the camera in and out, like so. Also, first-person mode is not available in the 3DS version, which is kind of odd, because you'd think that would actually make sense in a game with 3D as one of its selling points, to have, like, more immersion with a first-person view. So now we've swapped over to the all-range tutorial, and while we're fighting enemies, I wanted to talk about the medals a bit more. So, if you get every medal in every stage, you will unlock Expert Mode, which is a tougher version of the main game, with its own set of medals. The medals in Expert Mode have the same score requirements as the main game medals, but it is a lot tougher, I imagine, because of the inherent difficulty of that mode. So even after you get every medal, there's still more to see in this game. In addition to that, there are a few more changes, like how Fox actually wears sunglasses in Expert Mode, so he actually looks a bit more like his father, James. There are also 2 additional ending images for clearing Expert Mode, one for the easy route through Bols, and one for the hard route through Area 6. So in this mode, we're trying to score 100 points to see something special. We're almost there, but in the meantime, the 3DS version also has 2 different gameplay styles to choose from, 3DS mode and Nintendo 64 mode. And basically, the N64 mode has like the original difficulty, while the 3DS mode is slightly rebalanced to be a little bit easier for people playing, like with the gyro aiming. The medals do not carry over between the 2 modes, so if you want to unlock Expert Mode, you'd have to get the medals in one mode or the other. The medals also, the Score Attack medals also do not unlock Expert Mode, since those are separate, even though like the Silver medal still has the same requirement as the regular stage medal for the Story Mode. Alright, we've defeated 100 enemies, and now we have a very special opponent to deal with in Training Mode. If you look at the radar, you may notice that Wolf's ship is now here. It's a lot easier to take down in this mode than in the actual game, hence why this is the tutorial, but this is a really cool secret for scoring a lot of points in this mode. At this point, this is basically endless, so when you're done with Training Mode, you can basically quit back to the main menu. Also, you can still crash, and if you do crash and lose all of your health, you'll simply get booted out to the main menu. But yeah, I think that's basically everything I had to say about Training Mode, some more 3DS exclusive features, and Expert Mode. So I think we're ready to return to the main menu. Next up are the Versus modes. The multiplayer is divided into 3 different modes. In Point Match, the goal is to defeat your opponents to get points, and the first to a set number of points wins, ranging from 1 point to 5 points. In Battle Royale, the goal is to be the last one standing, and in Time Trial, you have to defeat enemy AI and have the highest score at the end of a set time limit ranging from 1 minute to 5 minutes. In these modes, you have 2 different areas to choose from, including Corneria, Sector Z, and Katina. Even though there are 3 areas in total, only 2 are available per mode, so in Point Match and Battle Royale, you can pick between Sector Z and Corneria, but in Time Trial, you can choose between Katina and Sector Z. In the original, there are also different gameplay styles. By default, you can pilot an R-Wing, but by getting the medal for Venom, you can also unlock a Landmaster for multiplayer. By completing Venom on Expert Mode with a medal, you can also unlock an on-foot gameplay style, where you can run around with a rocket launcher instead of using a vehicle. The 3DS version completely retooled the multiplayer with different power-ups and different locations to choose from, but got rid of the different gameplay styles. So in general, from what I've seen, people prefer the original multiplayer to the remakes, because of the omission of certain features like the on-foot gameplay and the Landmaster. Finally, I wanted to go over the rankings. So these are my scores throughout this playthrough, and also include my practice run. I wasn't able to do better than in my practice run throughout this playthrough, but it got a lot closer than I expected. I think what made a difference in this run was mostly Aquas, because I did so much better in Aquas in the practice run than in the actual playthrough. Overall though, I got surprisingly close, only about 40 points off, and yeah, overall even though we only got the one medal, I feel like I did pretty well in this run. This is the medium route playthrough that I finished off-screen, mostly so I could get the medal for Bolse, since all 4 members of Star Wolf would be there, allowing me to get the medal score pretty easily. And finally, we have the easy route, which wasn't great. Not only were the scores fairly low, but we also lost Peppy in Sector X, which wasn't great. So overall, I am glad that the scores went up throughout the playthrough, so that was good at least. But there is a secret tied to the total hits. At the end of the credits, there's an invoice to General Pepper of the bill to Star Fox. So the amount of money owed to Star Fox is determined by the total number of points multiplied by 64. If General Pepper owes over 70,000 credits, he will have a different reaction to if he owes less than that. So he'll reply with a flabbergasted "what?" instead of saying this is one steep bill, but it's worth it. I'm pretty sure on the easy playthrough, he actually said nothing because we scored so low that he didn't even react to it. And I actually tried to find the score for that, and I actually couldn't find anything on that. So the only information I could find is the 2 quotes for above or under 70,000. And with that, we've officially reached the end of this playthrough. I had a lot of fun revisiting this game, and I hope you enjoyed this playthrough as well. If you have not played this game already, I still highly recommend it. It has plenty of replay value and is overall a very fun arcade-style game. But with all of that being said, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for something different.